Welcome back into the Skol Purple Podcast. Glad to be with you as we are once again talking about the Minnesota Vikings and possible trade rumors that the Vikings could be interested in some of these players potentially. But I want to get into first these two players. I'm sure we'll get into many more throughout the offseason, David. But let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers and Trey Lance because Brock Purdy's been playing really well.
Yes.
Also, Jalen Ramsey. First of all, on Trey Lance, though, it was reported by Michael Silver that the team could very well be looking to move on from Trey Lance and that he might not cost much more than a third-round pick. And Jalen Ramsey, on the other hand, according to NFL rumors, among those that could be interested in Jalen Ramsey, the Minnesota Vikings. Four teams that are expected to check on Jalen Ramsey's availability: the Lions, Steelers, Vikings, and Raiders. So let's start with Trey Lance here. What are your thoughts on Trey Lance, and what are your thoughts on Trey Lance for a third-round pick?
Do it. Do it. Yeah, I mean, even though his rookie style contract will kind of run out if he gets traded because he only has 3 more years left, and the last year would be a basically rookie option or whatever. I say do it. You get another quarterback in here, to develop under Cousins. If KLC is the quarterback guy that we think he is, you do this, and now you have your quarterback for the future. You have him already in place. Do it. I mean, I would actually give him a third and a fifth if we can, just to get it done.
Yeah. I think ideally, if you're the Vikings and you can make this happen, it would be next year's draft picks, right? Like you wouldn't want to trade this year's draft picks because it's kind of like at this point we're so strapped with our draft picks. Like, I don't know if I want to give up any more. But at the same time, if you could get a potential future quarterback for your team, then maybe it's worth it, And again, it goes back to what their opinion is on Trey Lance, and if they like him better than they like some of these quarterbacks in the draft, which it's a very quarterback heavy draft this year, more than it's been in a long time, probably. So I'm definitely interested, but I think the fact that Trey Lance costs so much less than it would cost to get up into that top 10, I think that's the most intriguing part to me.
Yeah, me too. Because if you wanted to move a lot of spots and get in the top 10, it wouldn't be possible. We don't have the draft capital or the players to try to move up and do that. The best thing that the Vikings can do is take a flyer on Trey Lance, and if he can get his feet wet and develop under Kirk Cousins and KLC, then we got a quarterback in the hands for maybe the next 7-8 years. And that's something the Vikings haven't had consistently in a while besides out of Kirk Cousins. I mean, we already know Kirk Cousins is not going to play forever. So you have to start preparing for that. You don't want the decline from Kirk Cousins to come and you don't even have a viable backup for him. You shouldn't run your team that way.
Right. Exactly. Well, let's move on to the final guy that we're talking about, at least at this video, and that is Jalen Ramsey. We know all about Jalen Ramsey, one of the greatest corners in the league. I still think he's probably the number one, or at least in that top 3 conversation. But, then you get into the conversation, David, as you and I were talking about earlier, of the cap situation. How much is this guy going to cost? And I have heard that there's not much, if any, of his contract remaining that's guaranteed. So that does interest me a little bit more then. However, how much is he going to be comfortable playing for is another question, But according to NFL rumors, 4 teams that are expected to check on Jalen Ramsey: the Lions, Steelers, Vikings, and Raiders. And I don't know if it's just based on KOC's familiarity with Ramsey, but I would guess that it's probably more to do with the Vikings need cornerbacks.
Right.
So, what are your thoughts on Jalen Ramsey? I would say, from my perspective, I would say possibly, because if it's going to cost more, if it's going to cost a first round pick, even, I don't even know, if it's like a second or a third, maybe I think about it more. But if it's a first round pick, I'm probably out on that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm out on Ramsey because if this was maybe 2009, I mean, not 2009, 2017, when we actually needed a cornerback outside of Xavier Rhodes, then I probably would have gave 2 first-round draft picks just to get him in the building. But Ramsey's 28 years old now. So what's going to happen is you're going to get a guy who's on the decline, and you're going to be stuck with him when he starts to bust a lot of plays, just like he did similar last year. So I'm out on Jalen Ramsey, and I don't think he's a great locker room guy either, because I've seen multiple times where he busted coverage and he blames the other guy. I mean, he's okay, but I wouldn't be breaking the bank to bring him in here, even if he is in a similar position like Harrison Smith, to where majority of his guaranteed money is gone. They're just playing on the contract. It's not worth it at this point. I think you will be able to draft some more guys and have them under team control contracts and develop them versus getting Jalen Ramsey. You only get Jalen Ramsey when you have, a team that's ready and he's the missing piece. Like Deion Sanders back in the day when he went to Dallas, or when he went to San Francisco, or like, not too long ago with Darrelle Revis when he went to all the other teams and won Super Bowls. That's the only time you do it. Not right now. He's too old. He's 28 years old.
Yeah. I would say a lot of it depends on the Wilfs. Again, I know we keep going back to that. But the Wilfs, if they're willing to rebuild, I don't think the Vikings would make a type of trade like this. But if they're not willing to rebuild, then do you think if Kwesi is like, okay, well, I suppose we should try and win then. Let's go ahead and try and bring Jalen Ramsey in here and try and instantly improve this defense and not try and take a long time to improve the defense. I'm kind of torn because obviously I want to see the Vikings win immediately, but at the same time, I'm like, if we can rebuild right now, it could lead to future success for many years. So,
true.
and that's what I would really like to see more. So I'd like to see a hard reset, and if it's done correctly, I think it could be very successful.
But didn't Kwesi express his interest on not going full Rams? Because what the Rams are dealing with right now is they went and traded for all these guys, even though they won the Super Bowl. Aaron Donald is in the process of maybe retiring. Sean McVay doesn't know if he wants to come back or not. Jalen Ramsey wants to leave. Do you really want to build a team similar to that, to where you're primed to win a Super Bowl, but the year after you can't even make the playoffs and stay competitive? I'd rather draft.
I will give up the future if it means getting a Super Bowl. I will say that, because I really don't care at that point. Like, I'll take 10, 20 years of miserable play if it means getting a Super Bowl. But I don't think this team is that close. Exactly. I don't think they're 1 or 2 or 3 players away from making a Super Bowl run. I think they're like 5, maybe. And that's maybe being generous. Because I think next year too, like, we're going to see the first place schedule, and let's just say the 4 teams that are remaining in the dance are going to be on that schedule next year. So but we'll see if the Vikings decide to make a trade for either one of these guys. Of course, we'll talk about it if they do.
Yeah, go ahead. And another thing about Jalen Ramsey too, when this comes to any talk about, the defensive side of the ball, we still have to wait and see what that defensive coordinator is going to do and what he likes to do and what schemes that's going, and what he favors. Right. Does he develop linebackers? Does he develop linemen? Does he develop safeties? Does he develop corners? Like, once we know what the DC wants to do, then I think, okay, maybe we should trade for a guy here and there. But other than that, we don't know what's going to happen on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what happens. As always, we look forward to bringing you more content. And subscribe, comment your thoughts on both of these players in the comment section below. And as always, Skol.